Toward the Games, Brisbane 2032. Lutzy and Chris Jones joining you for yet another magnificent episode. Thanks for joining us. And
this is going to be, and it's either going to be a very exciting episode, Lutzy, or fairly boring.
Depends what you're into.
Because this is going to be a committee chat special.
For the committee fiends out there, this one's going to rock your socks because we've got the final pieces of the puzzle in place. 21.
Now, I know you've come in. We've both actually come in from annual leave to do this because it is so important. And I see that you've got your Bunnings hat, the big straw Bunnings hat on.
Yes,
what's that about?
I've got that with the two jugs of beer with the straws going.
Oh yeah.
It's holiday vacation mode. But
maybe the Bunnings thing will make sense as we go through this.
Yes, because we have 5 more names. So this is committee chat heavy today. Obviously, the 21, the famous 5, the Avengers, as we've been calling them. It has turned out not so much the Marvel Avengers, but more the DC comic superheroes, because nobody's heard of the 5. And
people have heard of the 5. I think it's more that nobody was talking about these as potentials.
Yes.
They're great. They're great appointments, but they're very left field.
How many names had you heard of in reality? And I'm okay with this, by the way. I think it's great that we're closer to the balance of individuals in the team, crossing, obviously Olympics and athletes, and also Indigenous representation, and then, of course, the political arm of it, which was looking like it could override everything else. And we seem to have steered back into a more of a central position now with actually some real heavy hitters of the business world globally.
Very much so. And actually, when you look at we've got them sitting in front of us here, all their little headshots and everything. When you look at that committee, you think it's actually ended up to be a pretty well-balanced committee.
Yeah.
So I don't know, how do you want to, there's 21 names here, Lutzy. We have spoken about 16 of them along the way, which we might just reprise at some point. But
let's
the new
focus
bits
on the 5, the DC 5.
The DC 5, the Avengers. Okay. So how do you, I don't know,
El Presidente to start with, hey? So this is the big gun, the one that they've searched the globe to find, and is also in control now of maintaining some balance between some other egos in the room, I guess you'd say. As we've mentioned in previous podcasts, you've got obviously the Queensland Premier, you've got the AOC President in John Coates, who'll take that last spot, that 22nd spot, but you've got Lord Mayors, you've got everything there. So the problem was that, and the answer the job ahead now is for Andrew Liveris. Is that how you're saying it?
Yeah, that's right.
Chairman of Lucid Motors and BlackRock Long-Term Private Capital, former chairman and CEO of Dow Chemical.
Now, that's the big thing, right? This guy is a global business leader.
Yep. Former Brisbane schoolboy.
Who grew up in Brisbane.
Yeah,
born in Darwin, grew up in Brisbane, and has gone on to be a genuine, international business leader who it's just the sort of person that we need to be.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you can fall into the trap of saying, it's the Brisbane Olympics. Well, let's say it's the Olympics that are going to be held in Brisbane. Yeah. This is a global event.
Yeah, yeah.
And you needed someone with real stature to lead this committee, to be the president of the BOCOG, the Organising Committee for our Olympic Games.
Yep.
And we've genuinely found someone who is from Queensland but has gone and built a hugely successful career globally and is now coming back, and he says, to give back to the city that he grew up in. I just think it's left field, as I say. No one thought that people of this stature would come in and put their hand up. And here he is, Andrew Liveris, the president of the BOCOG. So
here's a question for you, particularly in relation to the president, and also in relation to the other 4 names. This was independently chosen by a bunch of people that no one
independently found by a recruitment company.
Somebody, right? So, did they headhunt him, or is he filled out an application? You know what I'm saying?
It was a global search. So I don't know how much of it was push and how much of it was pull.
Yeah.
That hasn't come out. We'll have to ask him. We've actually, this is breaking news, literally just got a text message.
From who?
No, I'll read it. Hang on.
I like when this happens live.
You can read that one right there.
Okay.
Don't say who it's from, just the top one there.
The top one. How about 20 April, 11 a.m.?
Andrew Liveris on the podcast.
Okay.
11 a.m. 20th of
What's
April.
that? Hang on, when is that? What's it? I'm on vacation. What's the time? What
That's,
date is it?
10
Is that next week? That's next week.
You'll
Is
be
it?
back at work, I think. You'll be
It's
back at
8
work.
days away.
10.
10. Sorry, my math isn't real good on vacation either. Didn't you say the 20th?
He's coming.
It's the 12th of
He's coming.
April.
Oh, 8.
It's 8. Oh my God, you're on
Journalist
vacation
maths.
as well. That's why
I said we're both on annual leave.
we went the more the English way after school. Let's hope Andrew Liveris is a bit better at
Anyway,
maths than that.
he's coming on the podcast next, so that's very
Okay,
exciting.
well that's cool because I have no idea. He didn't
now,
exist in my world.
the other
before
thing
this.
that happened this morning, Lutzy, is, believe it or not,
Jesus, I love this breaking news.
Yeah.
on
No, a lot has
podcast,
happened this morning.
Who else has called you?
there's 3 phone calls from you.
That's just
There
me.
you go. That's,
Can I say who that is?
yeah, you can.
some-
9:29 a.m.
Some bloke called John Coates.
Ten-
Did he leave a message?
10-minute chat
You had a 10-minute chat with him?
to talk about these guys. He literally just rang when I was on my way to the studio to talk through these guys.
What did he...
And now he says Andrew Liveris. The thing you don't know about Andrew Liveris, John Coates says,
Yes.
is that as the chairman of Dow Chemicals, he had a lot to do with both the London and the Rio Games in terms of their, climate pollution type work.
Okay.
And that the IOC president has said to John Coates, it would be great if Andrew Liveris was involved in the Brisbane Games in some way. And here
Right.
he is as the president. So he's already got a relationship with Thomas Bach.
So he was headhunted then?
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll ask him. Anyway, look, I think it's a great appointment. Now, the other,
That's
you know,
great.
I've been banging on also, Lutzy, about this, about the committee.
Yep.
And the concern that I had that you're going to sit around a board table where you're going to have John Coates, you're going to have Anastasia Palaszczuk, you're going to have the Brisbane Lord Mayor, and who you're going to need someone who's going to chair that room.
Yep.
With genuine strength.
Yep.
So that it doesn't get sidetracked by these other big, heavy hitters in the room.
Yep.
Well, I think that they found that person. So I'm really, very
someone that-
exciting to have a chat with Andrew Liveris.
I presume Andrew
on the
doesn't
next episode.
really care all that much about, Queensland politics, in his
exactly.
day-to-day.
I'm sure
You know
he'll
what I
be
mean? Like, so he'll live without, outside that
and
political structure that we had concerns about in recent podcasts.
So true. I'm sure he'll be respectful of the Premier, as he
Yes,
should
of
be.
course.
But he's not someone who is ever going to rely on the Premier's patronage,
Exactly. That's a good way of putting it.
which is just what you need. Just what you need. Now, we also have in
Who
front
else?
of us, Andrew has done just before we close off on Andrew, he's saying that he wants to ensure the Games are not a 4-week endeavour, but instead a decade of benefits, economically, socially and environmentally for the state.
Love that. A decade.
That's exactly what we've been banging on about
Yep.
on this podcast. He's obviously been listening, because that's...
Well, has he? Well, we can ask him next week. Very excited. But he's right. A decade, which means it starts now.
Yeah.
And that's the message we've been pushing. Let's
Yeah.
get our skates on here. Let's get our skates, because I was happy to see the Shrindog, Adrian Schrinner, Lord Mayor, during the
Yes.
week, saying, "Come on, we've waited. It's been 290 days. I forget how many days it was, but he was. I like that. I like that the Schrinner's
Yeah.
saying, "What are we doing here? Come on, we've been blessed with 3 extra years." And is it right? Yeah, 7 to 10. Almost more than
it's
that,
been
right?
9 months. I'm
Yeah.
just doing the sums on my fingers.
Yeah.
It's been 9 months since we got given the Games.
Yep.
And this group still hasn't met.
Yeah.
Now, they're meeting on April 27.
Okay,
It's
so
going
it's
to
a
be the
week.
first meeting of the BOCOG.
Righto, so we'll have the president on before their first meeting. Brett Clark is another name that I've spent the last couple of days looking at a photo and thinking, have I met you? and you may well have if you're in the local area, because he's been heavily involved with the Queensland Rugby Union as a chairman and a board member. Also, the managing partner of Chemist Warehouse, which is obviously a huge brand.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of interesting that a chemist is one of our leading Olympic people.
Well, it's a very
The Russians back in the day, the East Germans, were going, God, why didn't we do that? The Eastern Bloc. But no, but that's cool.
No, he's also been on the board of Queensland Ballet, and he's certainly been around the place. I don't know Brett.
No, I don't either. I'm endeavouring this week to reach out and from reports I've heard from people within Queensland Rugby and Australian Rugby this week that I've reached out to, saying he's a great operator.
Yeah,
and he's
terrific.
obviously a passionate person around here as well. Shelley Rays, Tell me about her.
Shelley's another one that I haven't come across. I will admit. Welcome to the. This is the most insightful podcast ever.
I think most people, as I said, I haven't really heard of.
I have heard of the other two that we're about to talk to, and know them. But anyway, so Shelley, well, you can read that out if you like. Let's see.
Past co-chair of the Reconciliation Australia, CEO Arilla Indigenous Consulting. So that's the second Indigenous placing on the board. Of course, Patrick Johnson was named the previous week as part of the State 4.
Queensland Quad.
The Queensland Quad, like that. Has been involved heavily in Australia Day, Australian of the Year Awards, Parliament's apology to the stolen generation. Again, I think a fairly exciting and
she's clearly got a good CV. And look, I think surely we can do better than two, but at least there's two First Nations people on the BOCOG is critical. I've said before, Lutzi, I think the big story beyond the big underlying story of the Sydney Olympics was the way that it played into reconciliation. And obviously we're still on very, very much a long journey there, but the impact that Cathy Freeman and some of the other stuff around Indigenous issues 22 years ago had on Australia's on the journey that we're still on and we need to go and we need to walk together on is critical. And I think that therefore the Brisbane Games has a great opportunity to continue on that walk. And so having not only Shelley, but also Patrick on the board, is going to be critical. And hopefully they will play a key role in ensuring that reconciliation is right at the heart of the next 10 years and the 4 weeks of sport in 10 years' time.
Yep, well said. Okay, so Shelley Ray, Sarah Kelly.
I do know Sarah. Now, Sarah's a very impressive woman. She is a lawyer, but she's the Associate Professor Marketing Law at the University of Queensland. She's also the Deputy Chair of the Brisbane Lions and of Tourism and Events Queensland. So she's one of these people who are around town just quietly going about, doing some great work. I've only met her once, but I walked away very impressed. So Sarah's going to bring a lot to that.
Events Queensland, I think, particularly in the last, I was going to say 5 or 6 years, I've been excited by the kind of attitude they're taking into, securing international or globally respected events, but also showcasing our greater, or Queensland's greatest assets as well. So I'm happy that, moving forward, Queensland Events or someone who has been involved in tourism events Queensland is there as well. So I'm pretty happy with that one. I think I just saw you counting numbers, and I was about to do exactly the same thing. What were you counting then?
I was counting women.
Yeah.
So 9 out of 21. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 9 out of 21 are women. So we didn't quite get to the 50-50.
Right.
So we might need to get Adrian Schrinner to follow through with his...
Adriana.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, because that would make it...
We'll have to text him later and say...
Straight down the middle.
Yeah. Well, it'd be 10.
That'd be 10.
10
almost.
Out of 21. That'd be close enough. So
because bloody Rob Scott wrecked it. He was the last one. Not his fault, but President and Chairman of Rowing Australia, CEO and Managing Director of West Farmers Limited, and Olympic silver medalist. So you can throw that on his resume as well. Rowing, you said it was back in 96, was it?
96 at Atlanta. He won silver in the coxless pair behind...
I don't.
Great Britain. It was Great Britain's only gold medal.
I thought you meant who he was in the team in the
boat. No, he was like literally behind.
Oh well, Redgrave.
Yeah, and Vincent. Yeah.
But who was he actually behind in the coxless pair?
Now,
I'll find out. But
okay.
It's irrelevant anyway. Who cares? But, so West Farmers. That's a big company.
It is. Now that would explain the Bunnings.
Yes,
because one of West Farmers' companies is Bunnings, so you're very on point there, Lutz. So I don't know if that was planned or not, but your hat...
No, it wasn't. West Farmers, just doing it for the jugs of beer on my hat, okay? West Farmers, is that that's an Australian company, right?
Yeah, and they not only Bunnings, but also...
what else have they got in their armoury? Just give us a second.
Kmart, Office Works,
right, okay,
they're retail sort of stuff.
Okay.
So look, he's fantastic. Now this is another person that I was talking to, John Coates, about this morning, and he says that he knows Rob very well because John Coates was Rob's chef de mission at the 2 Olympics that Rob competed in, including 96 where he won his silver medal, and he says he's someone who Yeah, Coates.
He was a Cox.
That was his sport, and he says Rob's just, I mean, Rob's a very successful, running Wesfarmers. You're one of the big CEOs in the nation, but personally, John Coates said this morning to me that Rob's just a terrific guy in terms of his passion for sport, etc. Beyond obviously his big role in business.
Okay, you haven't got one thing you haven't got in Chris Jones's Courier Mail last Sunday with his story is the ages of people. I don't know if that's politically correct anymore to say how old are they, what sort of how old will they be in 5 or 10 years? Are you happy with
Bronte Barrett would be the youngest, although she'll only be on for a short time.
It's a bit youth light would be my thing. I mean, other than that, I think Patrick, I'm guessing now, I think he's about the same age as Mui. It'd be like early 40s or something like that, or maybe 45 because he was running 20 years ago. Other than that, Bronte, as you mentioned, Kurt is still, I guess, in that area where you considered him to be somewhat youthful. He'd be around about 40 as well.
But when you look at that list, they are a well-balanced list.
No, it's good. It's impressive.
And I think what you've got, it's actually a nice mix of athletes. You've got Kurt Fernley, Bronte Barrett, Natalie Cook, Patrick Johnson, Rob Scott.
I mean, they're all relatively recent athletes.
Yeah.
Aren't they? I mean, I still...
Tracy Stockwell, of course, is also on there.
Yep.
US...
Tracy's impressive, by the way.
US swimming legend.
She was leading up the Queensland Academy of Sport board for a while I had a stint.
You have said that. Actually, I was with Tracy and Mark Stockwell at a dinner on Friday night. And,
can you tell him to upgrade his website because it's just I just find it a bit bland.
Let's come back and talk about Mark in a minute, shall we?
But yeah, you were at that dinner with them.
And Tracy obviously has won 2 or 3 gold medals at the LA Games.
Yeah, he's a superstar.
And Mark didn't win a gold, but Mark was saying that he often says to people, as a family, we have gold, silver, and bronze. That's good line.
That's fair play. He can claim that. Okay, so there's your 21. As we said, Coates will join that.
Do you want to have a break? We'll just do a quick roll call.
Okay. Toward the Games, Brisbane 2032. Lutzy and Chris Jones with you once again, discussing all things as we're going to start counting a bit differently as well, I might add. I know we've been sort of joking around, I think, with 38, 100 days away still. I'd like to count how many days since day one.
Like since we got it.
Yeah.
How many days have gone?
Yeah, how many days have we, wasted?
Okay, well, in the next break, let's do those sums.
Do the math. In my brain, it's about 290.
And we'll come back with... how many?
That could be wrong.
290.
I think I read that.
290.
I read that somewhere, probably in the Chris Jones Courier Mail.
Okay.
But anyway, so...
should we just go through...
Call, yep.
Should we go through the 21 members of the Organising Committee for the Brisbane Olympic Games?
And then the DC superheroes at the end.
Maybe by... let's categorise them. So...
If you can.
Okay, so the first person appointed was, of course, John Coates, who was appointed because he's the president of the Australian Olympic Committee.
Yep.
Now, remember, there's also a fallback because, as we just indicated before the break, he is standing down as the president of the Australian Olympic Committee, which means that the new president of the Australian Olympic Committee, which will either be Ian Chesterman, who is John Coates' preferred successor.
Chef de mission for the Tokyo Olympics, recent Olympics. Yep.
Or Mark Stockwell,
most
famously known as husband of Tracy.
Jeez, you said that, not me.
Mark. Successful property developer,
yes,
Australian Olympic swimmer.
These days, that's how you think of Mark Stockwell.
Yeah,
right?
Who's the challenger. And we might actually, let's talk about him as well. And because that is the other thing that's coming up in April, is the vote on April 30 to decide who is going to be the next president of the AOC to replace John Coates. It will either be Ian Chesterman or Mark Stockwell. Let's hit pause on that and come back to that conversation.
Keep in mind that's 3 days after the BOCOG first BOCOG board meeting.
True.
Geez, it's all happening, isn't it?
So John Coates stays on.
Yes.
Which will make it then 22.
Yes.
And either Ian Chesterman or Mark Stockwell will come on. John Coates will stay on because in the legislation, as we've discussed before, there are various fallbacks to ensure he stays on. One of them is any honorary life presidents of the Australian Olympic Committee, of which he will be named the honorary life president at some point.
Who names that? Is that an IOC thing?
That would be AOC.
AOC, okay.
And the other fallback is any Australian member of the International Olympic Committee, of which he is the vice president of the IOC, so he stays on. So there'll be 22.
Yep.
So actually, our number of 9 women out of 21 will actually be 9 out of 22.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And then there'll be a 23rd who will also be a male, won't there? Stockwell or just
No, that's because they'll take his spot. So
gotcha. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yes.
So John
22.
Coates, John Coates / Ian Chesterman / Mark Stockwell.
Yep.
So that's the first that came on. Remember, second that came on were the 2 athlete representatives, and that was Bronte Barrett,
Yep.
3-time Olympian swimmer,
Yep.
and Kurt Fearnley, triple Paralympic gold medalist, not to be confused with current Australian of the year.
Don't even. Absolute legend, Kurt Fearnley.
Then you have the CEO
And Bronte.
of the Australian Olympic Committee, Matt Carroll.
Yep.
Then you have the Paralympics president, Jock O'Callaghan.
Yep.
These are set positions. Then you come into the politician picks.
Now, this was the federal
Yes, the federal 4.
and
Well, okay, no. Firstly, we had the Lord Mayor. Remember, we had the Lord Mayor.
That's right. Yes,
Adriana Schrinner,
Adriana
AOM.
Adriana picked his councillors.
And now, remember that? It seems like a long time ago, doesn't it?
He picked Redlands.
But there was a big controversy, remember, over who was going to be his +1.
And we thought it was going to be Did it have to be a woman?
Well, no, we thought it would be either Sunshine Coast Mayor Mark Jamieson,
Yep.
who's had a lot to do with this bid, or Gold Coast Mayor Tom Tate,
Yep.
Who is currently feuding with the South East Queensland Council of Mayors.
Yep.
Both of those are men, and so Adrian Schrinner did the right thing and chose a woman.
Yes.
And there are only 3 female mayors in South East Queensland.
Yep.
And he chose Karen Williams, who's
Yep.
the mayor of the Redland City Council. Karen
Okay.
Williams.
In.
Then we went to the federal 4.
Yep. And there had to be a former Nudgee College school captain.
Yes, that's in there as well.
So Ted O'Brien got a start.
Yes, it's funny, Lutzy, because it's your tell. You can tell that you've been to that you are a nudgy old boy because.
Can I just say your newspaper? Can I just say this before you continue? Your newspaper, the Chris Jones Courier Mail, had me in the top 25 alumni of all time at Nudgee College.
Really?
Are you aware of that? As the editor of your newspaper, are you aware of that?
I'm guessing that was just clickbait.
How offensive! Well, I didn't think you were a tabloid. I thought you were a broadsheet, whatever.
Compact.
Call it. Compact. What do you call it? Yeah. Anyway.
That's good. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. Yeah, it's there, mate. It's Rhodes Scholars,
did
War
we
Heroes.
rank?
There was no rankings, I don't think. I think John Bathersby was the first name that came up, but I put it to him, and what was he? Anyway, we're getting off track here, but it wasn't ranked. Wow. But I was in there.
Well, there you go. Congratulations,
Wallaby Stars, Rhodes Scholars, and me.
Do you get something when you
just get to send that link to as many people as you can, particularly guys you went to school with, including Ted O'Brien, who was not on it.
Yes. Anyway, I could tell that you went to Nudgee because you have, as most Nudgee boys would assume, that there's a spot on the BOCOG for someone from Nudgee.
From Nudgee College. And okay. Ted O'Brien controversially got that over me.
So Federal 4 was Ted O'Brien. Now, he got it, it'd be a joke, but he got it because he's a special envoy for the Prime Minister's special envoy for the Olympics.
He was the PM's main man, still is.
Richard Colbeck is the Federal Sport Minister.
Yep.
He is our 9th
Yep.
Appointment, and he got there because he... because he's Federal Sports Minister. Now, the other 2 on the Federal 4, i.e. the 4 appointed by Prime Minister Scott Morrison, Tracy Stockwell, who we've been talking about, and Beck Frizzell, who is the co-owner of the Gold Coast Titans and the director of Paralympics Australia. Great choice. Beck is there. We are up to 11. Now, along the way, I forgot that there's also, remember I said that you automatically get on if you're a member from Australia, if you're a member of the IOC. Yes. You also get on if you are an Australian member of the Paralympic Committee, whatever it is. Yeah. And now, Robin Smith, during this process, was appointed to the International Paralympic Committee Governing Board.
Yep.
And so she is also on there, which as our 12th. Okay. Then we get to the Queensland Quad, the 4 chosen by Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk. So Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk declared that yet again the winner is me, and she appointed herself to the board, so she's on there.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned the federal sports minister, because many thought that the state sports minister, Sterling Hinchcliffe, would get a Guernsey. But
I think including the sports minister himself.
Sterling Hinchcliffe, who has been nominated or named or whatever on the Chris Jones-inspired Legacy Committee.
Yeah, he's going to chair the Legacy Committee, so that's good.
I think
that's
so.
Good.
Yeah,
but obviously, I mean, he's from the.
I think he would be disappointed, though.
I'd say I haven't spoken.
I did speak to him, but I didn't have I'm not a journalist of your pedigree, so I didn't have the gonads to ask him whether he was disappointed.
We might get him on soon and ask him.
But he was excited about the fact he was on the Legacy Committee. He did say that. I didn't say, "Are you pissed off that you're not on the other one?"
Yeah,
I could tell by his body language he wasn't the happiest man in the world. But we were at a Brisbane Bullets game at the time, so I didn't want to wreck the mood.
Yeah. People aren't very. Are they good events, the Bullets, these days?
I'm the number 1 ticket holder, so I'll say yes to that one. No, it is good. It's intimate. It's good. And Sterling's there all the time. I do like seeing our pollies not just turning up to the events that, sporting events that they're, paid to be at. He's actually just there with his family and loves his basketball, but he's not on it. He'll be chairing the Legacy Committee.
I think the issue is probably, as we said last week, he's from the same faction as Anastasia Palaszczuk, and they needed someone, therefore, from the left. So the winner is Stephen Miles, the Deputy Premier.
Yeah, well, I'd like Stephen Miles. I think he'll be excellent on there as well.
Just speak on mic.
Sorry. I'm trying to look at your paper. It concerns me that factions are coming into play for an Olympic committee. That's a bit weird. I'm not,
at least it's not an obscure
I'm mostly
junior minister. It's the Deputy Premier.
Yeah.
So you've got the Premier and the Deputy Premier. Again, it's good that we've got a strong chair. Now, the other 2 chosen as part of the Queensland Quad, the 4 chosen by the state government or by the Premier, are, as we've spoken about, Natalie Cook and Patrick Johnson. Natalie Cook, gold medal winning beach volleyballer from Sydney, and very much she's the head of the Queensland Olympic Council. She's I'm trying to think of the alliteration, but she's Natalie everywhere, isn't she?
She's ever present, and she's always pushing hard in different ways, particularly within the Queensland framework of the Olympics. She won't be a what's the term? A wallflower? No, wallpaper. What is it? She won't. I mean, you'll know she's in the meeting. Is what I'm saying.
You'll definitely know Nat's in the room.
Yeah, and
there's you never walk into a room that Nat Cook is in.
No.
And are left going, oh, where's Nat?
Yeah, you could argue the same for Mark Stockwell. And we do have some alpha sort of people that when they enter a room, they want to be known, and that's a good thing. I'm happy to see Patrick Johnson, because I got to know Patrick quite well in his athletics career and did some tours away to World Championships and the like with him and the other sprinters of that time, Matt Shervington and Paul DeBella and all those guys. And I knew that he was always had a very sort of matter-of-fact and very academic sort of feel to him, that he was always just thinking about things out. And he used a word called vibe. It was always vibing, Patrick Johnson. The vibe was Patrick Johnson's word. And so, I'm just vibing, So it's interesting to see, because I don't know what he's been doing for the last decade in a business sense or whatever he's doing, but I do think he will contribute in a positive way.
Now, I know I keep dropping this name, but it's only for the insight. And I asked Coatsy about Patrick Johnson this morning, and he said that he is very excited that Patrick Johnson's on the BOCOG because he has done some amazing work with the AOC around reconciliation in recent years.
Brilliant.
Coatsy was saying, he's very excited that Patrick Johnson was chosen as part of the Queensland Quad. The other thing, do you remember?
Grew up on a fishing boat, by the way. Remember that?
Grew up on a fishing. It's a great story.
Yeah, it is a great story. Yeah.
Remember before the Beijing Games? Remember the Beijing Winter Olympics? They weren't long ago. They were
the Beijing Winter Olympics. That was like a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were talking, and I sent a ill-fated text message live on podcast to Coatsy asking what happens post-election if there is a change of government. Do all 4 of the federal 4 lose their spots, or is it just the politicians that would come off?
Yes.
And he blanked me. He ghosted me on that text. But this morning I asked him that same question, and he said he confirmed that Tracy Stockwell and Rebecca Frizzell would likely stay on, and that it would be Richard Colbeck and Tern O'Brien would go off, and the incoming Labor government, should that happen, would be able to appoint 2 more politicians, or whoever they like, but likely be politicians.
Yep.
To the board.
So presumably, given that we're 10 years away, and someone sent me the great analogy that, how many people from Series 1 of Game of Thrones are still hanging around, which I think is the brilliant analogy for this, and it's almost, it is unprecedented.
Maybe we should drop the superheroes. Let's go with Game of Thrones.
Yeah, maybe Game of Thrones is better, and you want to be Peter Dinklage, because I think he's the only one still around that wasn't there. I am not deciding which one Peter Dinklage is, okay? If you want to go there, you can. I'm not doing that. But the point is, presumably these same 21, 22 people aren't going to be there in 10 years. How does that, in this sort of board of this scale, how do the changes happen? These are the questions we have to ask Andrew, the president, because people are going to drift away, and then there'll be people that are pushing still, I'd imagine, over this next 10 years. How do they then get the supporters? Do they sit in the board meeting and say, we don't want you anymore, let's bring
how do you move
he or she in? Like, how does that movement happen? That's the fascinating thing. Because, presumably if you're on this board, not everyone there should be saying, I want to be there in 10 years. There should be people going, I can probably impact with my skill set over the next 2 years and then get the hell out.
Yes.
Because that's the point of a board, right? It's supposed to be not self-serving.
Yeah.
You're there for the greater good. Will that happen?
That is the point. Yeah, well, I think I'd be very, very, very surprised even if you take out the politicians, that this is the same board that is there in the lead up to the games. Because remember what also happens, Lutzi, in the lead up to Olympics is this is controversial stuff. Remember up in the lab to Sydney, they even made a sitcom about the chaos around holding Olympics. Yeah, it's all going to happen. Well, it's going to be chaos. Yeah. It's political. And it's very, very complicated. And you put those two things together, and I'd be very surprised if more than half of this board is still there.
There's going to be controversies, Chris. There's going to be stuff-ups, and there's going to be awkward board meetings that people are going, like the classic line from the games is, I think Rob Sitch saying, when they built a 97-metre track at the Olympic Stadium instead of 100 metres, and Gary, the under-12 state championships are here next week. Some kid's going to come out and run a world record. And we all know how close that actually was to the actual reality. The Sydney 2000 Games was actually brilliant. So it's not just a fun board. It's the Olympic Games, and stuff is going to happen. There's going to be controversies. There's going to be stuff-ups. There's going to be great things happen, hopefully. But it's a high-pressure job, or it should be a high-pressure job if the board's going to have an impact on the games, which, as the organising committee, you would presume that it's an important role, not just an aesthetic thing.
I've been a bit concerned. I've been a bit concerned that the IOC, that the BOCOG will just kind of do what the IOC wants to do. It sets them a series of timelines. It says you need to do this by this date and this by this date, and it's right the way out. So they've told them they need to do some marketing plan, and they need to do a environmental plan already, like in the next 12 months. What's really encouraging is that quote I read out before about the president, Andrew Liveris, saying that he wants to ensure the games, about how does the BOCOG drive the decade of benefits?
Yep.
And so that's good because he's already thinking outside of the very set IOC process.
Yes.
And as we've said so many times, it would be such a shame if we saw these Olympics as just 4 weeks of sport in 10 years' time. It needs to be so much more. We will never get the Olympics again in Southeast Queensland.
Nope.
This is a once in a forever opportunity for our region and we need to make sure those at the centre of it are driving it. So there, everyone, is your organising committee for the Brisbane Games, and we can only wish them well. Yeah, and it's great. We'll come back and wrap things up, but through that legacy committee, I'm still personally trying to work out whether I care more about the next 10 years or the 50 after that. I'm a bit selfish, so probably for me it's more short term. But I mean, you've got me thinking about, and as they're discussing now, a legacy beyond that. So the whole thing, like the future, which is amazing. The future's important. It is important. We'll come back. It's for the kids. Wrap things up after this.
Toward the games, Brisbane 2032. Sorry if I sound a bit raspy. I was
what's going on there?
I emceed a beer festival on Saturday. And I had a moment where I was on stage at a beer festival. I think we were about to do the keg carrying race.
Yes.
And I thought, last time I commentated with this sort of, very commentating sort of voice from, being overbearing and my ego kicks in, I'm really giving it some, was at the Olympic Games in Tokyo. So that was, however,
what were you commentating on?
Rugby sevens. So I was commentating that and doing the medal ceremonies at the Tokyo, at an empty Tokyo. I was the crowd guy at an empty stadium at the Tokyo Olympics. So
Hard to amp up an empty stadium, isn't it?
It was really hard when you've got two of the managers from the Samoan team, and you're doing bongo cam and kiss cam with them every 5 minutes, and that was it. Okay, but cut to that, and me doing the hot chili wings challenge at the Eatons Hill Hotel last Saturday. So that's just the spectrum of my career over the last. And then, and then you throw this
podcast
you're
in the top 25 Nudgy alumni with a CV like that. Who was I to doubt?
So that's been my sort of my career span over the last 12 months. But I want to talk.
Well, it sounds like you had fun.
It was good, but I just my voice has been slim shady. But I'm on vacation for my other radio gigs, so that's okay. We mentioned how
will you bother to come back in 8 days' time to have a chat to the president of the BOCOG?
Oh, absolutely, I will. I'm just going to get into Byron Bay for a few days, and then I'm going to come back for that.
Okay. Yeah.
So Liveris, Clark.
Oh, okay. Avengers.
Ray,
this is the Avengers chat.
And Kelly, the Avengers, who are not the Avengers because I don't know their names well enough. So they are DC comic superheroes, and I've picked some.
Have you?
Now I know Sarah Kelly just purely on the aesthetic.
Yes.
Looks a lot like Zatanna, the superhero Zatanna from the DC range.
Tell me more about the superheroes.
Okay, I'm going to click in. Give me a second. Well, she's played by Kari Wahlgren, who's an American actress. I can tell you that. In fact, why am I pretending I know anything about Zatanna?
Okay, keep
the
going.
point is, I don't know anything about Zatanna, and I don't know much about Sarah Kelly.
Okay, well, can I just? Okay,
yeah.
So
what?
if you stick in DC, I'm gonna be over here in Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
You stay in the DC.
Yeah.
So in the Marvel Universe, Sarah Kelly,
okay.
she's a lawyer,
okay.
right?
Yep.
The female lawyer superhero in the Marvel Universe, real name Jennifer Walters, is She-Hulk.
She-Hulk?
And
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
What is that a direct descendant from the Incredible Hulk?
Cousin of. And
I didn't know the Hulk had cousins.
Yeah. And she balances her avenging with her lawyering. So there you go, Sarah Kelly.
That's a tricky combination. Lawyer by day,
yes.
Hulk's cousin by night.
She-Hulk
by night. That's got to be a conflict of interest. I don't think,
Okay, so Jennifer Walters / She-Hulk in the Marvel Universe is Sarah Kelly. Okay, please don't go somewhere else. I've got nothing.
You got nothing on Shelley Ray's.
No.
I heard her picked as Eliza Danvers, who's
back.
I'm back in DC world.
Yes.
Unfortunately, again aesthetically not dissimilar.
Okay, so you're going with aesthetics. See, I've gone deeper.
No, I went aesthetics.
You're just going aesthetics. Okay, fine.
I'm going with Eliza Danvers.
All right, I'm still working on Shelley's.
Eliza Danvers fights for the greater good.
That's good.
So Shelley Ray says that.
Okay, no, I'll pay that.
So that's good. Yeah, I'm just trying to dig a bit further.
Brett
Clark is probably
Brett Clark.
Out of the, I'll leave the two we've already mentioned out. But I'm just looking.
I've got a good one for Brett Clark.
Purely aesthetically, he's. I mean, and at some point, I don't know if we want to get into just. I'm going right down to the aesthetics now. I think he's probably the most attractive male member on the board. I mean,
certainly in that photo.
Certainly better looking than Ted O'Brien, isn't it? I mean, you can't really. That's a good photo of Brett Clark.
It is.
It's youthful. He's got a tan.
Yeah, he does.
Nice tan.
He does look good.
He looks good.
So who have you picked in the DC universe?
Give me a second. I didn't say I'd done full research on it, but DC.
Oh, you're still going. Okay.
There are some famous, like Batman. Batman.
Yeah.
Is DC, I think. And he has got a touch of the Michael Keaton's
that's
about
funny
him.
you say that.
A touch of the Michael Keaton's.
This works. He's definitely Batman. The reason is...
Oh, you've got a link here.
Are you ready? You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Brett Clark. No.
Oh, shit. What have you done?
Okay, here's my Brett Clark. I don't think it's Batman. I think that Rob Scott's Batman.
Rob,
right?
okay, yep.
But let's stay on Brett. Now, this is more than aesthetic. This is going deep.
And he was in a pairs as well, and Batman.
Oh, no, yeah.
Batman had Robin.
Okay, let's come back to Rob.
Behind him.
We're over here.
Sorry.
Brett
Clark. Yep.
Okay, so
Yes, I got one.
This
is
ridiculous.
For the president, by the way, too. Yeah.
So Brett was on the board of the Queensland Ballet.
Yes.
So he would therefore be friends with people who are trained in the fine classic art of ballet.
Correct.
Okay.
Building a wonderful facility at West End, by the way, near where
They
you
are. Yes, I had lunch with Lee the other day.
Yeah.
He was telling me about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's friends with people who've been trained as ballerinas.
Yeah, and he also hung out at swanky events.
Okay, stick with me.
Yeah.
In the Marvel universe,
Yeah.
the Black Widow
Yes.
was, among other things, trained in the ballerina arts,
Stop it.
and her mentor is Hawkeye.
From MASH? No, I'm with you.
Brett Clark, Hawkeye.
And we call him Hawkeye or Batman?
No, Hawkeye. No, Rob Scott is Batman.
Rob Scott is Batman.
Hawkeye. I'll tell you why Rob Scott's Batman.
Well, because he was in a, I'm not saying the other word, he was in a pair. He was rowing pairs. And
yes.
So it was a famous duo.
Famous duo. Good. I like that.
Thank
that
you.
works better than mine.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
No, because mine is...
We need a villain.
Batman.
Hang on.
Batman is, of course, Bruce Wayne is the CEO of Wayne Industries,
Yes.
which produces industrial machinery.
Yes.
Rob Scott runs
Yes.
Wesfarmers.
That starts with a
which
W.
runs Bunnings.
Yes, and starts with a W. The same as
Rob Scott, Batman.
Wayne Industries,
Let's not pause. Let's keep going.
Wesfarmers, Wayne.
Can you just tell me who Shelley was again? We didn't write that down. So we've got Sarah is She-Hulk, lawyer by day,
Yep.
Avenger by night.
Eliza Danvers.
I've never
Shelley
heard.
Ray's. She's a pioneer of the greater good.
Danvers.
Danvers. Eliza Danvers with an A.
So greater good. Yeah.
Okay, but
that's good.
these are all fantastic people.
Yes.
Someone's-
now we come to the big one.
Someone's got to be
The big one.
the big one has to be a big one. He's got to be slightly villainous because he's got to pull heads back into line when it's required to. That's his
I've
job.
taken a different approach. But if you're going with a villain
I've got
and
one.
you're going aesthetic,
I've got one.
Okay, go on.
Lex Luthor.
Oh, it does.
Lex Luthor.
Wow.
You got to touch the Lex Luthors about him.
Do you think
Batman's nemesis. Superman's
Do you think
nemesis.
that for a guy who's going to be our guest,
I'm
we
not.
should be saying
I won't be
naming
saying-
him after a supervillain?
Let's hope he doesn't hear this one.
Because I was thinking, who's the boss of the Avengers? Or boss of S.H.I.E.L.D., at least.
Who is it?
Nick Fury.
Oh, of course it is. Nick Fury. Okay.
He also looks a little bit like Kingpin, actually.
Yeah.
If Kingpin had a moustache.
He does look very superhero-ish.
He does. Well, Brett looks a bit
He looks-
superhero.
Yeah, well, he's just attractive, isn't he? But
Yeah. So what do we go?
no, I'll go with yours. Nick Fury.
Nick Fury as the boss of the Avengers.
It's safer because
Yeah.
he's the boss of the Avengers. Yeah.
Okay, so we got Andrew Liveris, Nick Fury.
Yep.
We got Shelley Ray's,
Shelley Ray's.
Eliza Danvers,
Yep.
who is just
A DC,
does great stuff.
A DC person does great stuff.
Sarah Kelly, lawyer by day, Avenger by night.
The Hulk,
She-Hulk.
/ the Hulk's cousin.
Yes. Brett Clark, friend of ballet, trained ballerina.
Yep.
Hawkeye. Rob Scott, the most famous of
A famous
duo.
Because we literally don't know who he swam with, but we know that he
Rode
swam
with.
against.
Rode with.
Rode with.
Yeah.
We know that he did go row against Stephen Redgrave. And
Yes.
of course, Batman famously
and
went against the Joker.
And just to back myself in, runs Wesfarmers, which owns Bunnings, like Wayne. It doesn't work. I prefer
No,
yours.
it starts with the W. Okay.
Okay, so Nick Fury, Eliza Danvers, She-Hulk, Hawkeye, and Batman.
There they are.
Does that? Should we just delete that whole segment?
No. It stays. It has to stay.
Now, before we finish, do you want to talk about Mark Stockwell and Ian Chesterman?
Yes. So that you just said that's the 30th
30th
of
of April. So I don't know if we'll be...
Talk us through the significance of that role.
Well, president of AOC, it's significant. I think what's most significant about Mark Stockwell's bid is that he is challenging the John Coates supremacy.
How's that going to go for him?
Well, it's interesting.
I mean, I did read. I was just joking about the web, the web page.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So,
I think Mark's put together himself.
So Mark sent around to everyone a web page showing.
As I said, it reminds me
it's
of
like his bid book.
A grade 11 assignment I did in IPT, Information Processing Technology, at Nudgee College.
Yeah.
I think Ted might have been, around.
It's hosted on Tripod
around the
or something.
computer lab at the time.
Yeah.
In the early days of computers, it was, it's basic, but the message is not basic. The message is a powerful one about the impact that he sees that the AOC can have on sport across a variety of different sort of areas and levels, from grassroots to elite to all sorts, Indigenous impact, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it was a good message. I remember I was reading it yesterday and thinking, okay, this guy's seems passionate about the future direction.
So the way that you win the vote, I think each sporting body has a couple of votes. So you have to win over the majority of the sporting bodies. Now, I would assume
the NSA, as I call them, National Sporting Association.
Yeah, I would assume that John Coates / Ian Chesterman has most of them locked up, considering the preeminent position that John Coates has in Australian Olympic sport. So it'd be a big ask for Mark Stockwell to crash through that. But good luck to him. It's good to have challenges to incumbents. That's good. Yeah. But if nothing else, I think what he's done through his candidacy, and like I say, could be successful, is that he has, he's put a challenge to the AOC that, to shake things up, to focus more on what role the AOC can have on grassroots sport and on sport participation. And I think they're critical things as we lead into 2032. Mm-hmm. And so good work to Stocky. And I'm not sure if we'll have another one of these just chats / just you and I until before April 30. But
we'll have a lot of guests on, won't we? But there's still room for us to be able to do that.
We've got Andrew Liveris, we've got Chelsea War coming up.
And by the way, I mean, we have got some heavy hitters, and thank you to Chris for doing most of the heavy lifting in that role, because you have access to some of these big names we're getting that are involved in it. I don't see moving down the track that just because you're not in there's significant others.
Yes.
If we have a significant others column of people that aren't finding spots in here, and we haven't even spoke about our good friend Kate Jones has been left out of the 21 or 22. I mean, I'm disappointed that, and I was disappointed initially that she didn't make this final ensemble, but having said that, I think she'll find her space in the game structure as we move closer. Well, I hope she does. I think she can contribute. And Mark Stockwell, with the passion he has, if he was not to get this AOC role, who's to say that he won't play some sort of role elsewhere? And we should be talking to these people as well.
10 years to go. You've got to, if you've got ambition in this space, you've got to probably play the long game if you're not there at the start.
Game of Thrones.
Stay optimistic.
Peter Dinklage.
Mark Stockwell is Peter Dinklage. Is that what you just said?
Yes. Yes, it is. Follow us. In fact, and you know what? You don't subscribe anymore. You follow podcasts because people thought that subscriptions sound like
you got to pay.
You got to pay, and you should think about that with your newspapers as well.
Well, you do have
call
to
it
pay.
something else. Yeah, but you're right. That'd be deceptive.
It's a membership. Membership.
Yeah, it's a proud membership.
Valued member.
Follow the games. We're on Instagram as well. Any ideas, or if you think you should be involved in this process, get on to us. Next time you hear from us, we will have some more big hitters as the countdown continues. How many days? We didn't work it out.
We'll come back.
Can't be bothered. Bye.